Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Giovanni Valderas with the Fort Worth Community Arts Center. Today, I have Morgan with me. She currently has a show up with us right now called Memory Beast. Morgan, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Morgan Grasham. I'm an adjunct faculty in sculpture at University of North Texas, where I teach traditional and digital methods. So I focus on digital fabrication usually. So the project I have at Fort Worth Community Arts Center is Memory Beast, which is a collaborative multi-species storytelling project. So I was a taxidermist, and I got really interested in the stories that we tell about other species and the way that that affects our reality and our interactions with them moving forward. And so I studied storytelling for a long time, and I developed this project where I sort of collaborate with both human and biological others, other animals, other species, in order to be a sort of conduit where we tell a story together, and we're seeking stories which are more sustainable for the future. So that's the goal.
Nice, nice. You mentioned that you were a taxidermist. Now, was that before your art practice, or did your art practice lead into taxidermy?
Yes, I was an artist before. I was actually a resident artist in West Texas for 4 years. And during that time, I worked as a taxidermist as well. So yes, I was an artist before, and I said, hey, this is a job where I can do art and do sculpture and get paid. So it worked out for a while.
How difficult is that to be a taxidermist?
Um, that depends on how good you want the taxidermy to be.
This is a great answer. Yeah. So, how do how do you reconcile your own history of your family farm and the agricultural impacts of climate change in your work?
Yes, part of this project was, I started in a personal place so that it would feel like I felt connected to it and I could move forward from there. And so I started at a family farm, which is obviously important to me. But I know that those cows that are there now, which have been there for 100 years, they're not going to be there much longer. You know, people are they're passing away, and the lots are sort of being divided and developed on. There's new houses every year, and so that it's being developed, and there's also the ongoing expense of keeping cows. It's not really profitable unless you're at a certain large scale. So at this point, it's more of like a hobby project for my grandfather. But it's really not something sustainable, and we know that, I think. So definitely that's part of this project, is like saying goodbye and sort of looking to what will be there in the future.
Wow. I guess, for someone like myself who's, comes from an urban environment, that, we don't necessarily kind of look at those facets of that part of life. And that's really, I think, fascinating. So, yeah. How, and so when you're creating your work, it seems like a lot of it's collaborative based with engagements with other individuals, and this idea of giving them prompts and then they answer in return. And maybe you can kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So I don't like people who are going to come to the thing. I don't want them to know what I'm asking, but I'll tell you that I sort of give short prompts, and I collect the answers. And the answers that are collected are used to fabricate the memory beasts. So memory beasts are holotypes which represent our ideas of a specific species. So for example, a cow. What do people think of or remember when they think of a cow? And I sort of collect information about that and make it into a physical object, which has been placed next to the biological cow. So yes, there's a lot of collaboration, which is really exciting, and it's always surprising. You don't know what you're going to get.
Oh, great answer. So I find it interesting, this idea that everyone kind of creates their own, idea or memory. How much, or if any at all, related to this idea of, you know, alternative facts and fake news, and people have their own agenda. How does that at all end up in the process of your art practice?
Yes, and I get asked sometimes whether this work is activism, political activism. And I like to say no. And the reason why is that when I think of activism in that way, it's something that's sort of short term, trying to solve a long term problem, which we do need. We need those short term solutions. But what I'm trying to do is a long term solution for a long term problem, which would, it's more of a cultural shift in the way that we think. By telling new kinds of stories, we change the ways that we're thinking about the environment and other species. And so even people that wouldn't necessarily be in our camp politically should still be interested in participating and in finding out more.
Hmm. I find it really interesting that with your previous your previous artist talks that it seems like a lot of people are interested in the interaction between the kind of soft sculpture that you place out amongst the cows in the pasture. Um, could you kind of tell us kind of the thinking behind that, or what were your expectations, and how did that play out at the end?
Sure. So I was in grad school at that point, and I was reading and interested in theories of otherness from like queer theory and feminist theory, but also is interested in like biofeedback science. So artists like David Dunn, who works with bark beetles, and he makes his own sort of microphones that he taps into trees. He listened to bark beetles, recorded their stridulations, their sort of sounds that they make, sliding their bodies, and isolated meaningful patterns. And in that way, he was able to create more sustainable forestry because he could tell the beetles, don't stay in this tree. Well, really, it was keeping them from reproducing. And so they moved away from that tree that they were infesting. And so I was interested in ecological solutions um, as a part of this sort of storytelling. I'm really interested in science fiction, and so these things all sort of combine for me.
I don't want to give too much away because it's really fascinating to see the video that you have up at the art center, but everyone should come check it out because it's really fascinating. Uh, and I think in a previous interview you had mentioned that now the relationship between you and the cows have changed, and they come running to you.
Yes, so before I started this experiment, obviously I grew up with these cows, but they just kind of stayed away. They didn't get too close. It was hard to get close enough to film them at first. And after I created the memory beast cow, nicknamed Bertha, and I started doing experiments with her, the cows like know me now. And even when I don't have Bertha, they run up to me. They're like, "Oh, hey, what are you doing today?" So I've been licked. I've been, yeah, it's great.
Wow, that's fantastic. Again, everyone, you should come check out the shows. It's amazing. But we also have one special treat as well. Morgan will be hosting a workshop. And Morgan, please tell us a little bit about it and when it will happen so we can all join in.
Yes. So Memory Beast workshop where participants will come and I'll give them prompts and it's free online on Zoom. So we'll just do some storytelling, that fun stuff. So that is on March 6th, Saturday, at 11 a.m. So we'll kind of blast the information and then you can ask us for the passcode.
Perfect. Yes. So everyone, stay tuned. Be on the lookout for that. As always, we will put it out, and so everyone can join. It's going to be fantastic. Morgan, where can everyone reach you if they wanted to reach you? Your social media, website, anything like that?
Yes, I'm on Instagram. It's just my name, Morgan Grasham. Yeah, that's probably the way to go.
Perfect, perfect. Well, Morgan, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. We look forward to the Zoom workshop. I think it's going to be fantastic.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
No problem. See y'all later.